Welcome to the Bookworm Duo, where we explore a variety of books, so you can find your next read. Let's get started. Today we're diving deep into Ashley Elston's First Lie Wins, a mystery thriller that'll keep you guessing until the very last page.
Oh, this book, it throws you right into a world of deception from the get-go. Imagine this. A young woman, a master of disguise, working for this mysterious figure known only as Mr. Smith. And get this, we never learn her real name.
Wow!
It adds this whole other layer of intrigue.
It's like she's a ghost,
Yeah.
slipping in and out of identities, completing these morally ambiguous tasks for Mr. Smith. It makes you wonder what would drive someone to live a life like that.
Well, that's where the story gets really interesting. Through flashbacks, we learn about her tragic past. Growing up as Luca Marino in Eden, North Carolina, she yearns for a simple life, a dream shattered by her mother's death. It's this longing for normalcy that keeps her going, even as she's trapped in this web of lies.
It's almost heartbreaking. You can see how much she craves a normal life. But her circumstances and this desire for a simple life with her mother, who sadly passed away from cancer, keep pulling her back into this dangerous world. And this particular job takes her to Lake Forbing, Louisiana, where she's tasked with getting close to Ryan, a guy who seems ordinary but has secrets of his own. Have you ever felt drawn to someone who seems to be hiding something, like they have a story they're not telling?
It's a classic trope in thrillers, and Elston uses it brilliantly here. The reader is immediately suspicious of Ryan. Is he a pawn in Mr. Smith's game? Or does he have his own agenda? And then things take a dark turn with the appearance of another operative who looks almost exactly like our protagonist. This doppelganger adds a whole new level of suspense, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Suddenly, it's not just about uncovering Ryan's secrets. It's about survival. The other operative and her partner end up dead, and the question becomes, was it an accident, or is something more sinister going on? It makes you question everything and everyone.
The death raises the stakes for Luca and forces her to confront the possibility that she's not the only one playing a dangerous game. She has to navigate this treacherous landscape while trying to piece together who she can trust and what Mr. Smith's true motives are.
It's like she's walking a tightrope, constantly on edge with the threat of exposure looming over her head. But as she digs deeper, she starts uncovering truths about Mr. Smith and her own past that she never could have imagined.
And that's what makes this book so compelling. It's not just a fast-paced thriller. It's a story about identity, about confronting your past, and about the lengths we'll go to protect the ones we love, even if it means sacrificing a part of ourselves.
Speaking of the past, let's delve a bit more into Luca's backstory. We learn that her skills in disguise and manipulation were honed from a young age. It all started in her mother's sewing room, where she witnessed the transformative power of clothes.
It's fascinating how Elston uses those early experiences to lay the foundation for Luca's present. It's almost like she was destined for this life, even if she never wanted it.
But it wasn't just about sewing, it was about survival. She started with small-time cons to help make ends meet, eventually graduating to more elaborate schemes to pay for her mother's medical treatments. Talk about a resourceful teenager.
It's a classic case of necessity breeding invention, and you can see how her love for her mother, that fierce desire to keep her alive, fueled her actions even as she crossed those moral boundaries.
But then tragedy struck, and her mother passed away. That's when she crossed paths with Mr. Smith. He saw her potential, her talent for deception, and offered her a way out of that life. At what cost?
Mr. Smith becomes this enigmatic figure, a puppet master operating from the shadows. We see glimpses of his ruthlessness, his willingness to exploit others to achieve his goals, and our protagonist is caught in his web, indebted to him for giving her a new life, even if it means living a lie.
It's like she's traded one prison for another. She has this constant fear of exposure, this awareness that she's living on borrowed time. But as the story unfolds, we see cracks in that facade. She starts questioning the things she's asked to do, the lives she's impacting.
The incident with the Kingstons, for example, weighs heavily on her conscience. And then there's the death of Amy Holder, which forces her to confront the very real consequences of her actions.
It's almost like she's having this internal battle between the person she wants to be and the life she's been forced into.
Exactly. And that internal conflict is what makes her such a compelling character. You sympathize with her even as she makes these morally questionable choices.
And then there's Ryan, the guy she's supposed to be investigating. He's not just a random target. He's got his own secrets and connections to Mr. Smith that gradually come to light.
What's interesting about Ryan is that he operates in a morally gray area, much like our protagonist. We learn about his involvement in shady dealings through his trucking business in Glenview, Texas, essentially engaging in the black market. So he's not exactly an innocent bystander in this whole mess. It makes you wonder, is he playing Luca? Or are they both pawns in a much larger game?
The tension between them is electric.
Mm.
There's this underlying suspicion, this push and pull, even as they're drawn to each other.
It's a dangerous dance they're doing, and the stakes get higher with each passing moment.
And that brings us to the climax of this story, where everything comes to a head. Luca's past and present collide in a way that's both shocking and inevitable.
The confrontation with Mr. Smith is intense, a battle of wits and wills where the line between right and wrong becomes blurred. It's a moment where Luca has to decide who she truly is and what she's willing to fight for.
And the ending, well, I don't want to give anything away, but let's just say it's not your typical happy ending. It leaves you with a sense of unease, of feeling that the story isn't truly over.
It's the kind of ending that stays with you long after you've finished the book, prompting you to reconsider everything that came before. It's a testament to Elston's skill as a writer that she can create such a complex and layered narrative. It leaves the listener with more questions than answers. One thing that really struck me was how Elston portrayed the South in this book.
Yeah, it wasn't just a backdrop, right? It felt like another character, adding to the atmosphere of secrets and hidden truths. Like Lake Forbing. It seems like this idyllic small town, but it's where Luca's life starts to unravel. And then there's Eden, her childhood home, full of both happy memories and painful reminders. What do you think she was trying to say about the South?
I think she was exploring the idea that appearances can be deceiving. The South, with its charming traditions and close-knit communities, often presents this image of gentility and innocence. But beneath the surface, there's a darker undercurrent, a history of secrets and unspoken rules.
It's like everyone is wearing a mask,
Yeah.
putting on a show for the outside world.
Yeah.
And Luca, the master of disguise, is the only one who sees through it.
Exactly. She's able to blend in to play the role expected of her because she understands the game better than anyone else. It's ironic, isn't it? The person who is most adept at deception is also the one most attuned to the hidden truths around her.
Yeah, and that isolation, that feeling of being different, really comes through in her interactions with Ryan. There's this undeniable attraction between them, but also this deep-seated mistrust. Do you think they could ever have a real relationship given their pasts and the secrets they're both keeping?
It's a question that haunts the entire story. They're both drawn to each other's strength, their ability to survive in a world where trust is a liability. But can they truly connect when their lives are built on lies? It makes you think about the compromises we make in relationships and the price we pay for keeping secrets.
Right, and that's where the theme of identity comes into play so strongly. Luca's constantly shifting between personas, trying to figure out who she really is beneath all the masks. It's like she's lost sight of her true self somewhere along the way.
And the presence of the doppelganger further complicates her sense of self. It's a brilliant literary device, forcing her to confront the idea that there might be someone else out there who is just as skilled at deception, who understands her in ways no one else can.
Yeah.
It's almost like looking into a distorted mirror, seeing a reflection that is both familiar and unsettling.
That's a great point. The doppelganger isn't just a plot device, it's a reflection of Luca's internal struggle. She's grappling with the different facets of her personality, the parts of herself she hides from the world.
And that struggle is what makes her such a relatable character. We've all felt the pressure to conform to present a certain image to the world. Luca takes it to an extreme, but the underlying emotions are universal.
And speaking of universal emotions, let's talk about the ending. It's not a typical happy ending, is it? It leaves you with this lingering sense of unease, a feeling that justice hasn't truly been served.
It's an ending that challenges our expectations, forcing us to confront the complexities of morality. Is Luca a victim of circumstance, or is she complicit in the darkness that surrounds her? Can she ever truly escape the web of lies she's woven? These are questions that stay with you long after you finish the book.
It's an ending that sparks conversation, which is exactly what we aim for here at the Bookworm Duo. What did you make of the ending? Did you find it satisfying, frustrating? Were you hoping for something different?
For me, the ending was perfect in its ambiguity. It wouldn't have felt authentic if Luca had suddenly found redemption or a simple resolution. Her journey is messy, complicated, and ultimately unresolved.
I think that's what makes First Sly Winds such a powerful read. It doesn't shy away from the difficult questions, the moral gray areas. It acknowledges that sometimes there are no easy answers and that the choices we make have lasting consequences.
And it reminds us that even in a world of deception, there's still hope for self-discovery and maybe even a glimmer of redemption.
Yeah. It really leaves you thinking, doesn't it? You're left kind of grappling with like the implications of her choices and what it all means for her future. You don't often find a thriller that makes you think about like the human condition, in such a profound way.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the reasons why First Lie Wins stands out. It's more than just a suspenseful page-turner. It's a story that stays with you long after you've finished reading. You question your own perceptions of truth and deception and how far you would go to protect the ones you love.
It definitely makes you wonder about the secrets people keep, the masks they wear. We all have our own versions of Mr. Smith in our lives.
Yeah.
Those figures who exert influence and control, shaping our decisions in ways we may not even realize.
That's a great point. That brings to mind another fascinating element of the book. The motif of sewing and disguise, Luca's early experiences in her mother's sewing room, become a metaphor for the way we construct our identities. You know, the threads we weave together to create the image we present to the world.
Yeah, like we're all playing a part to some extent. We choose the fabrics, the colors, the patterns that best represent who we want to be or who we think we need to be to survive.
Exactly. And in Luca's case, that survival mechanism has become so ingrained that she's almost lost sight of her authentic self. But I think there's a glimmer of hope in the ending. Despite the ambiguity, there's a sense that she's finally ready to shed those masks, to embrace the complexities of her past and forge a new path for herself.
Maybe that's the ultimate win in First Lie Wins. The realization that truth, even if it's messy and uncomfortable, is ultimately more liberating than living a lie.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. The book reminds us that the first lie might seem like a victory in the short term, but it's the truth that sets us free.
So for anyone out there looking for a book that will keep you guessing, challenge your assumptions, and stay with you long after you've turned the final page, we highly recommend First Lie Wins by Ashley Elston.
It's a gripping tale of deception, identity, and the search for redemption, set against the backdrop of a South that is both alluring and unsettling.
Thanks for joining us. Subscribe to our channel for more bookish adventures and hit that like button if you enjoyed the ride. Don't forget to share the knowledge, and we will see you on the next episode.